So, just real quick, because our audience, our viewers, they're pressed for time. They want to get the answers, the information as quickly as possible. So, in 5 minutes or less, can you just quickly explain and break it down as to how you can make $100 million real estate business with a small YouTube channel? All right, go.
Here's how you do it. You connect at the highest level with your intended audience. You provide the most value. You follow up with them frequently, and you serve their pain points. Give them a solution for whatever their problem is, and then be able to execute on whatever that solution might be. And if you've got the skills to be able to do that, well, chances are you'll be able to scale and grow your business. I did it in less than 45 seconds. There you go. Video's over.
I'm not going to lie. Most people will be like, Kevin, there's no way I can explain that in under 5 minutes. But realistically, even if you could, which you did, it takes more than that to make $100 million real estate business with a small YouTube channel. Like, that's
I have yet to do $100 million in a year. So when I crack that code and I hit that mark, best believe I will be talking about it extensively.
So you bring up a good question here. When someone says that, they're saying it from the standpoint of an annual basis. So if they say 100 million, they're talking about annually, not over the life of their business or anything like that. Is that what the typical number is associated with?
So first of all, believe none of what you hear and almost none of what you see, because one of the things I was very confused with when I was not in the real estate space, but everybody's $1 million producer. Everybody's $1 million, I don't even know what terms they use anymore, but every card, every real...
So you were saying don't believe all of what you see and hear.
Don't believe anything, right? Verify. So when I first got into the business, and actually well before that, this is when I was buying my first house, every interview or every realtor or real estate professional that I tried to interview or did any research on, they've all got the same credentials. They're all best of the best, top of the market, or not top of the market, top performer, whatever bullshit accolade that you can put to it, everyone has one. And everybody's $1 million earner or producer or whatever the thing is. I don't know, because I don't follow any of that stuff anymore. But it's confusing. So if you're the general public, who probably doesn't spend a whole lot of time doing any type of research on anything, is going to probably see the credential, be impressed with it, and then interview maybe one or two realtors. For the most part, the first person they meet is generally who they're going to hire, but it's confusing. So when somebody talks about their production, I have no idea what that means. And especially on social media and YouTube, people are completely disingenuous. They don't tell the truth. There are so many different coaches that are in the YouTube real estate space that I have done the research on because I'm curious about what kind of production they do. And many of them, not all, but many of them haven't done anything close to what they allegedly do. So you got to do your own research and buyer beware.
So with that, you actually bring me into my next question for you, or series of questions. Who are you? Where did you get your start? And what do you do? And who do you help?
These are all excellent questions, and if I had known they were going to be this difficult, I certainly would have studied before. But I'm Chris Igo. I am a boots on the ground operator of a real estate team, high performance real estate team here in Southeast Palm Beach County, and I serve and support the local communities here. My claim to fame, at least more recently, has been through my YouTube channel. So I put a lot of content out there for a very specific intended audience, and my intent is to provide them with valuable information that you might not be able to get anywhere else. And much of that information or analysis or opinion comes from my previous career. So before I got into real estate, I was a stockbroker for almost 20 years, and during that 20-year career, I experienced every single market condition that happened, every single economic crisis that happened, but not just domestically, also internationally, because equities trade and they're global markets and there's a 24-hour-a-day news cycle. So what happens in a different country or a different market absolutely impacts what's going to happen in our market. So everything you probably saw in in every Wall Street movie is probably true. So the money never sleeps, the market never sleeps, and it's a very fast-paced and very aggressive sales community. But I experienced everything and I traded around it. So when I started to see realtors, or excuse me, real estate, quote unquote, real estate professionals talk about the market, I immediately realized that they're not really sharing much value. So when I see many things, especially since they started tightening the monetary policy, there were a lot of things I knew were going to happen. And so they would take time. And I think the first video that I did that really took off was me talking about the liquidity crisis will destroy the housing market. This is about a year ago, maybe a little bit more. I don't exactly remember. It's whenever they started the Fed tightening policy and they raised Fed funds rates for the first time. I immediately knew at some point, if they continue on this trajectory, there will be a liquidity crisis. There are very predictable things that are going to happen in the economy, in the markets, and I say it with an S because there's the housing market. There's you can break the housing market down into different sections and segments, but also equities and every other market that trades. There's definitively going to be volatility, and so the more I leaned into that, the more my business grew, the more I attracted the right type of clients that I want to do business with. But many, and even right now, there are plenty of realtors out there that think the market only goes in one direction because they've only experienced the market going higher. They've never experienced a declining market. And I happen to be one of those realtors. Since I started, the market has essentially gone straight up. And it may continue to go straight up for a while. But because I also know that there are crashes and predictable declines that are going to happen, there will be there has to be a bear market, across the board everywhere at some point. I know that. So I talk about that. And bulls make money, bears make money, pigs get slaughtered. But depending on what your objective is, I know how to give you the right advice because I've kind of seen it all.
Now, with that being said, it's almost like you're reading my notes here, and we're segueing into the next question, which is, how do people contact you?
Well, the easiest way is to call me, and I believe my number is going to be on the screen here. So you can reach out with any questions that you have. Separate to that, if you Google me, you're going to find so many different opportunities to connect with me directly. I've got links, relocation guides, you name it, I've got it, and I'm not hard to find.
Awesome. And also on YouTube, Chris Igo 1, the number 1, at Chris Igo, IGOE, number 1. That's your channel name, correct?
That is correct, and thank you for thank you for being my number 1 hype man. Yeah. Talk about dropping the obvious ball here. Yeah, you can find me at YouTube at Chris Igo 1.
It's all good. Hey, this is, my brain always goes there. Your brain probably always goes to the real estate. And, this is why I think it's so good to have these connections and these conversations and these networks, is because, they're all ultimately going to help each other. Now, talking about the markets.
Let me interject.
Go ahead.
Let me interject for a second here, because I think what you just said is very interesting. It is very important to have that network that you just described. But what I've been somewhat surprised to learn over time is that many, not all, to be very clear, this is not everybody, but many of the YouTubers that are out there in the space that I try to connect with, they want nothing to do with connection. They want nothing to do with building a network. They want nothing to do with leaning into masterminding or connecting. you found me on YouTube. You sent me a comment, or you left a comment, and within, I don't know, pretty quickly, we were emailing and on the phone, and then the first time we talked, I talked to you for longer than I talked to friends I've known for years because we geeked out over YouTube. And
we still do.
yeah, we still do, right? But I think it's a shame because I think a lot of people right now are craving connection, no matter what. Forget about industry specific, but a lot of people have lost the ability to connect and build networks and grow friendships. But I was thrilled when I met you because immediately we both sensed, okay, this is somebody who does not have a scarcity mindset, is not going to hold anything back. I'm happy to tell you everything that I know about whatever it is that you want to talk about, and I want you to grow. So anytime I can do that with somebody who's like-minded, I'm happy to do. In fact, I'm thrilled to do it. But there's a lot less of that than I thought.
Well, that's why I asked you earlier, who do you help? Because it's not only about who are your clients and who are you closing contracts with and things like that. Who do you help? Because at the end of the day, I want my content to help YouTubers. I want my content to help people in general. And likewise with you and your content, I know you really want people to have the most accurate and up-to-date information, specifically for your hyper-local market, but in general, and not necessarily listen to the repetitive narrative that is being spread and pushed throughout YouTube and other social media platforms. But we also have to realize that in this day and age, it's going to be harder to connect, but when you do, and it's genuine, and people can feel that on the other side of the screen, then they know who to go to for help. They know who to go to for truth and answers, whether they're buying a house or selling a house today or tomorrow or never, or in Florida or somewhere else across the country. I want to talk to Chris because I like Chris. I trust Chris. I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to do that. I want to talk to Kevin. That's what I want to get to. Those are the folks I want to talk to.
Well, it's funny because in the evolution of my channel, and much like I'm constantly studying other content creators, I'm constantly trying to figure out how the algorithm has changed and what I can do to improve serving the audience, or not really even. I think that was my mistake. I was using the term audience for a long time in my head, when in actuality, what I'm really trying to do is connect with friends. And as I tested different things and as I evolved in my process, it's only recently that I discovered that, yes, there is certainly value in the hyper-local market information that I share, but I'm missing the bigger picture here. Like, I don't want to be transactionally mindset-based, and I feel like a lot of the content that I put out there was not so much transactional, but it was competing with other YouTubers to combat their narrative. And I think I lost myself along the way. I stopped having as much fun. It became, I think I got even more, I think my energy may have shifted, and it was noticeable by others, where it just became me being a little bit more aggressively pushing my truth, which, is right in small sample size. But, there's a lot more to me than that, and I'm not one-dimensional. I've got many different things that I want to lean into. So, you've helped me. I don't know if discover or wake up to the fact that there's a lot more that I can do outside of real estate in my content creation that helps other people. Period. And that's what I'm leaning into these days.
It's absolutely right, and I'll use my compare and contrast on my end. There are going to be countless other ways that other creators will share how to grow and build channels. It is not my desire to argue that. I only want to share my thoughts, my opinions, my perspectives, and for those who are interested in connecting with me in that journey, then by all means, feel free. But if not, you're free to, go another route, take another path, try to grow it another way, perfectly fine. But I would definitely lose sight and be less effective by trying to combat others' bad advice versus just continuously sharing what I think, what I know, what I see, what I experience, things like that.
Yeah, and I think people can sniff out a fake or a fraud pretty quickly. And so if you're being authentic to yourself and you're sharing your authentic experience in anything, you're going to build your tribe and attract people who are interested in those similar things. And that's what I want. I want to build a bigger community and help as many people as I can.
Speaking of tribe, Squirrel Tribe and I were doing a live stream earlier, and we were talking about you. I don't know if your ears are burning, but I was telling the folks how I can see the back end of your analytics, and I really like what I see here recently from the engagement from the viewers. I'm very happy to hear that your dad is doing better, but I'm also really pleased to see how many of your viewers feel the same way. Except for reading this on the comments page where I see comments from the recent videos of you providing updates with your recent emergency room visits, intermingled with comments from your video of I'm leaving Florida. And it's a night and day difference. It's a night and day difference. But with that, we said, speak to the audience and, attract the audience that you want. And I think, by building that tribe, by having that connection and communication, you're definitely gonna find more friends. You're gonna have more friends to have these chats with in your videos.
Well, what's shocking to me is so that video of I'm leaving Florida was right before I was leaving to go on vacation to Washington. And so I was what I thought I was doing was letting the audience know that I'm going away for a week and I'm probably not going to be putting out a video every day. So although I didn't say that in the video, instead I made what was a completely sarcastic, what I thought to be hysterical, mocking, joking, totally bullshit video about I'm leaving Florida, which I'm not leaving Florida. I probably will never leave Florida anytime soon. But I suspected that the audience, and this was a mistake, I suspected that the audience was smart enough to understand that this was obviously a joke. But what happened, as you mentioned, I got so much hate. I mean, hate. You got to see the comments that are. Well, actually, you can. If you go into the comments that are filtered out and look at the ones that might be deemed hateful by the algorithm, I mean, people are furious. F you, go to hell, whatever. But it's hard not to be. I mean, I'm a big tough guy. I can play tough guy till I'm blue in the face. When you get enough people telling you to go F yourself, and that video, I think it's got 35,000 views or something like that. It's starting to take off a lot. So I'm bringing in a huge group of not like-minded people, but I brought in a huge audience of people who hate me and want to put in all these negative comments. So be careful what you ask for, because you might get it, and lesson learned.
You're absolutely right. However, you actually you had said this once before, and I don't remember exactly the way you said it, about something about one of the dogs barks the loudest or something like that. But I don't necessarily believe that you brought in the wrong audience. I just think that you definitely provoked the wrong viewers to comment. Because myself, I'm not a commenter. I watch YouTube a lot, but I'm typically watching for research. But even if I'm watching for enjoyment, I rarely comment. And I think there's a certain sub-niche of people that do. And if you find that sub-niche of the hateful and ignorant, then that's what you get. But they're probably 1% of 1% of your entire audience, if you really do the math. So you're probably still bringing in some really good audience, really good viewers and subscribers, but you're hearing and seeing more of those that you would rather not.
Yeah, the negativity got amplified 100%, and I'm not going to pander to that audience. If you're really that miserable that you need to take time out of your own life and spend your own life force and energy into shitting on me, well then you got much bigger problems than
I think I would.
fix.
I think I'd have to say at that point they have no life. I'd have to say they have no life, and we're gonna move past that. We're gonna move past that because I got way more important questions I got to ask you, and I don't want this video to be too long. But I did see
and you know what? I wish them all well. I wish them well. I wish them all the best.
Absolutely, yeah. Honestly, I hope that they do better. I hope that eventually they'll turn around and things will be better. Where they won't be so miserable. But I did see that the Fed.
If they ever want, they can come here. I'll give them a big hug.
Be careful. Again, be careful what you ask for, what you wish for. You might get it. So the Fed is supposedly preparing to cut rates in 2024. Okay, and so my question for you is, with that headline being pushed out, I don't know if you saw the Fortune article on that. What should we expect with a rate cut in 2024? They're talking 1 percentage point.
I mean, it's predictable, right? So we're going into election, and the government needs something that they can point to be an electable position, and they don't really have any at this point. So wouldn't it be nice if you juiced the housing market and juiced the consumer right as we're getting into when it becomes a critical election period? So I talked about this for a long time. I'm not surprised that they're going to drop interest rates. In fact, I talked about it for the last year. As we get closer to election, you can expect that they're going to do lots of things that some are predictable, like them dropping interest rates or Fed funds rates. But what we don't know and what we haven't seen yet is what I can't predict. I don't know what the next thing they're going to throw at us is to stimulate the consumer or to stimulate the economy or to juice the markets, but nothing would surprise me. And I hope we don't get caught with something that allows for them, meaning the government, to have more control and more access to information, and everybody falls for it.
Now, I don't want to get too political, but I do have to tell you what I think and what I see and hear. And what I typically see and hear is how bad the homeowner's insurance is, usually tied to Florida.
Yeah.
I don't really hear too much about other states. It's usually tied to Florida. Is this me living in a bubble because I'm in Florida?
No, so the insurance market has been an absolute disaster in Florida for a long time. And a lot of it had to, not all, but a lot of it had to do with the way the legislation read up until about December of last year. And essentially what I was going to use the word predator, but that's the wrong word to use. What predatory home adjusters and litigators did was they could, and this may have happened to you since you've been here, maybe not, but it was not uncommon after a rainstorm for property owners to get a knock on their door from an insurance adjuster or a public adjuster who would say, hey, we just had a big storm and I noticed that there's a little crack in that shingle on your roof. If you sign right here, we can get you a new roof. And almost everybody who hears you're
talking about the storm chasers.
Yeah, but almost everybody who hears that is an option or an opportunity or a loophole in the system, well, they're going to take advantage of that. And they have. So there was massive fraud. I mean, billions of dollars worth of fraud. And it was because the way the law was written was that the insurance company could not go after the homeowner. There was no liability. And DeSantis changed that. So now it's, if somebody knocks on your door and says, hey, we can get you a free roof, well, now there's also a massive red disclaimer that says, and if you sign this, the insurance company can come after you for damages and fraud or whatever the language is. But there was no tie back to the consumer. Now there's a direct tie back to the consumer. And that's not the only issue with home insurance or property insurance in the state of Florida. There are other issues, but because it became so litigious, many insurers left the state completely, and there's no competition, essentially. There's only a few insurers. The main insurer is Citizens Insurance. And Citizens is essentially funded by the government. It was supposed to be the insurer of last resort. But what I suspect will happen over the course of the next, 2 to 5 years is much of the, listen, insurers are businesses. And if there's money to be made, they're certainly going to make it. So I suspect over the near term or, in the near future, there's going to be more insurers that pop up. The market will get more competitive, and as there are more options and more competition, you're going to see pricing come to a more manageable level. But, yet to be determined. I don't know.
So, like I said, I don't want to get too political, but it just seems, based on what I'm hearing and reading between the lines as we approach election, well, we have one side that is dropping rates, as a look what we've done, and then we have seemingly another side getting kind of thrown under the bus to say, look how bad Florida's doing from a homeowner's insurance standpoint, while the other side is leveraging interest rates from a home ownership position. Is this potentially to make one likely Republican candidate look worse than another?
Well, I'm glad you don't want to get too political. Look, similar to the I'll make this analogy. The loudest commenters who are leaving the most hateful things are the ones who got my attention. I don't think it's too dissimilar in today's media world, right? So, without getting political, Florida's an easy target, right? So if they want to, whoever they may be, go after and create controversy, it's not really too hard to do that right now.
Got it. All right, enough of that. Let's go back to having fun. Let's get back to, livening this conversation up. Tell me, how has YouTube helped to grow your business?
Oh my gosh, YouTube is the gift from the heavens. And before I got involved in YouTube the right way, I was just posting content on YouTube and every other social platform with everything that I did. So I didn't have any plan. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I was, at the time when I got started in real estate, I was doing a lot of outbound phone calls. So I'm directly calling strangers, sellers that their listing didn't sell, fired or canceled, but I'm just pounding the phone for 8 to 10 hours a day. And I suspected that if they were interested in doing business with me, they would Google my name. So when they Googled my name, I wanted to make sure that there was something that they could find to get them to know me, like me, trust me, and realize that I'm not some, sleazebag used car salesman, which is what most people think when they get the cold call from a stranger. So I was just constantly putting out content everywhere, and I did that for up until the pandemic, really. But when the pandemic started, I realized I think this is my opportunity to learn how YouTube actually works. And so I used that quarantine time. I did learn how YouTube actually works and what the best practices are, at least as per the coaches that I had hired at that point. So I got very intentional. I locked myself in my room, in my office during the shutdown, the lockdown, when everybody else was out there doing whatever they were doing. I was learning YouTube, and it was I became consumed by it. 24 hours a day for about 2 weeks. All I did was geek out over YouTube, and I knew nothing about YouTube going into that. So didn't know how to edit a video, didn't know how to make a thumbnail, didn't know how to do almost everything. I didn't even speak the language the coaches were talking, so I had to go back into Udemy and find courses for like YouTube for idiots and like very remedial stuff just to start to learn the language that they were speaking. And eventually I figured it out, but I had a feeling that as the quarantine ended and things started opening up, there were going to be a lot of people from around the country and around the world that wanted to see what living in Florida was like. So I intentionally put out content showcasing exactly what living in South Florida is like. And I highlighted different areas, different subdivisions, different communities. I did full-length driving tours. I went buck wild for for a period of about 10 months, where I was putting out at minimum 2 videos a week, but most likely it was something like 3 or 4 a week. And from that, it took 10 months of me putting out just constant videos. The phone didn't ring once. And then somewhere around that 10th month, I get a phone call from someone, and I thought I was being punked. I was driving in the car, and the phone rings. I answer it, and they're like, "Chris Igo, you answered the phone?" And I thought I was being punked. So I'm looking around. I'm like, my wife has obviously got somebody trying to punk me here, or like, it can't be real. But this person was like, thought I was a celebrity, was extremely fired up that I answered the phone, and then hired me to help them buy a home. And from there, it's been off to the races.
So that is an amazing story, and hopefully it's an inspiration to others looking to get going, and potentially whether it's using YouTube for real estate or any other promotion and segue into the business, or an another arm of inbound marketing, essentially. Let's just say, or give me your opinion on what is it like in your space as a real estate professional trying to grow a successful YouTube channel?
Well, the market has changed from when I started to where it's at right now in terms of content creation. So there were a few people who were having success in different markets that I looked to as inspiration for me to know that I could do it. But now there are way more realtors or real estate professionals that are in the space. So when I first started my channel, it was called Living in South Florida with Chris Igo, which is way too long of a channel name. But since then, if you were to look on YouTube, there's probably like 10 or 15, I don't know how many, knockoffs of my original channel title. And so there's a lot of competition in the space with people putting out content. So for me, I want to differentiate myself. If everybody else is doing the same thing, then you can bet I'm going to do the opposite, because I want to differentiate myself. I want to provide different kinds of value. So I think the value proposition that I bring to the market, unique to me, is that while everybody else is doing the same videos, I'm out there doing, I may be sharing some of the same type of information, but I'm also running it through the filter of having been a stockbroker for 20 years and knowing what happens in different market conditions. And so there's no such thing as competition. If 10 people do this, I'll make it even bigger. If you have 100 realtors that are all on YouTube with the exact same videos and the exact same subject matter and the exact same thumbnail and title, they're still going to attract the right buyer for them, or the right client for them, or the right person for them, because they're going to have a different energy, they're going to have a different swagger, they're going to relate to each other differently. So there's unlimited business, and so I don't care if everybody copies my channel. You're never going to be me, and that's just the way it is. But don't try to be me. Be you. Do you. I'm going to use Squirrel Tribe's thing. Do you, boo?
Do you? That's really cool to hear you say that, because I know, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of others that you try to connect with, just they saw you as competition. They weren't interested at all. And you're literally saying, hey, give it a shot, give it a try, because, of this entire pie, you get your slice, I'll get mine. Which now I have to ask you, if you can, tell everyone, what defines success to you in your professional life and also success on YouTube?
That's an interesting question. So my definition of success has constantly evolves. right? So as I'm trying to level up a little bit each day, every day of my life. So if you had asked me that same question when I was in my early 20s, when I was a stockbroker, I would have said, well, I need to make X amount of dollars this month, or I need to buy a Rolex, or I need to have a fancy car, or I need to have this, that, or the other thing. And it would be the material thing that I would define success as. And that, don't get me wrong, I like nice things, but that is not, no, thank God I don't think that way anymore, because that would tell me I hadn't evolved or grown at all. But my definition of success today is more like, am I happy, joyous, and free? Am I able to provide my family with the opportunities that I want to provide them with? Do I have the freedom of my time to be able to do whatever I want when I want to? And that's really how I really define success now in really everything. Do I have total autonomy and freedom to live the life that I want to, the way I want to?
That's amazing. That's amazing. So this actually probably already answers the next question, or questions, being words of advice for beginners, or just for some folks who already have some time under their belt, but they're not necessarily seeing the results that they want right now. What would be your words of advice to them?
Well, let me add on to the last definition of success. In addition to what I just said about autonomy and freedom to do whatever I want when I want to, included in that, one of the things that makes, and this leads into the next thing, one of the things that gives me the most fulfillment is being able to lean into somebody and help pull them up. So when you ask about what's the advice that I would get or I would give, this is one version of me helping pull somebody up. It takes time to acquire the skills to do anything, right? And most people want that instant sugar high. They want the instant success. They want to put out one video and now they've got 100 clients. It doesn't work that way. So when I started with my first YouTube coach, and they, going back to some of the other questions, they said they had done, I don't know, several $100 million worth of sales volume. And it was all from YouTube, and it was all within a year. Well, none of that was true at all. I do believe that they generated some business, but they made it seem like within 3 or 4 videos, I'm going to have an endless pipeline of business coming in. And that was not my experience. It took me 10 months of probably hundreds of hours of time and investment and money. And it was an enormous cost of entry. Some of it sweat equity, some of it actual, spend, or not ad spend, but me coming out of my own pocket to buy the things and learn the things, to invest into my business. But it doesn't happen overnight by any stretch of the imagination. You got to pay your dues. So I would be patient with yourself, and just know that everybody's first video sucks. You're probably not going to like what you put out there. You're probably not going to like the way you look. You're probably not going to like the way you sound. You're probably going to nitpick it apart until you don't put out anything. So I would say commit to starting and stay committed to consistent posting or consistent content creation, because it's going to take you, I don't know, several hundred videos to be where you want to be, but you're never going to get there if you don't start and stick with it. So don't expect instant results. Be prepared to wait however long it is and constantly grow and adapt. But it 1000% works for everybody. It 1000% works for everybody in every business. And the best advice I would have to anybody, even if you don't have a business, if you have a hobby, if you have a passion, if you have an interest in anything, talk about it on YouTube, and you will eventually, over time, build your tribe of new friends that are interested in whatever that thing is too. So it doesn't have to be real estate. It doesn't have to be YouTube specific. It can be whatever you want it to be, but start immediately and never stop.
I feel like I have to insert motivational poster saying right now where it's, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start in order to be great. And that's pretty much it. And this is kind of the same way that it goes with everything else. It's like, I don't know if you saw, but we did a live stream. Michelle, Squirrel Tribe, and I, we did it, and we were talking about her crossing over 100,000 subscribers. And it was like, how do you get your first 100, first 1,000, first 10, whatever. And she's like, the answer is the same no matter what. And what it boils down to was basic savings. How do you save $1? Okay, how do you save 10? How do you save 100? If you just keep doing it and you stay consistent, eventually you will have it.
Yeah.
So Chris, what are you doing later today? What are you doing tonight? Are you going live tonight? You got any uploads? What's coming up?
Thank you for that softball that you threw up in the air. So tonight, we are doing big things. We are getting stuff done. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be doing a live stream talking about, actually, because I read the comments and I want to give the clients or I want to give my new friends what they want. I'm going to do a deep dive into every housing market within the country that anybody wants to know about. So normally I talk about my hyper-local market, and I'm certainly prepared to do that if needed, but I'm going to go big. I'm going to go macro. I'm happy to talk about every market that exists within the country and hopefully provide people with the information that they need to know, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. So,
and just for clarification, because I know that we have viewers from all over the world, really. How can you in Florida potentially help someone in another state or another country looking to buy or move to another state outside of Florida? How could you potentially help them?
That's a great question. And a lot of people, many folks think that, that the realtor that they're working with, and again, everybody's different, but they may think they're only able to serve and support that local market that they're in. But if you have the right professional, and I am obviously the right professional, I am extremely intentional about creating relationships with other real estate professionals that I know, like, and trust throughout the country, throughout the world. And it doesn't matter where you're thinking about buying or selling or investing or shopping, renting, whatever it might be. I have vet every single person that I refer out to. So I'm going to ensure that you are connected with an all-star that understands the market right now, right? And I do that at a high level. I want to make sure they understand how to advocate and negotiate for their clients the right way, because I don't want anybody anywhere ever overpaying for a house. I don't want anybody anywhere not getting top dollar for their house if they're thinking about selling. And I would never in a million years connect somebody with somebody who hasn't passed the sniff test, right? So it is critical that if you are ever looking for anybody, doesn't matter what market you're in, to serve and support you at the highest level, please reach out to me and I will ensure that you are working with the best of the best wherever it is that you're shopping.
Hey, thanks again. I really do appreciate it. It's, as always, a pleasure having this chat with you. I'm looking forward to all of your content, and I will be tuning in for the market updates, because we are still interested in buying in Florida. So I'm looking forward to that. And again, thank you, Chris, for joining us here today.
You're the man. Thank you for it. Say hello to Michelle. Say hello to your brother, Ron. And until next time, I'm out.
Got that monster?
I got them. Kevin, nothing but the best for you. I break this. This is vintage 2023 Monster Energy. So
that's a good year. It's a good year. So, Chris, real quick. Oh my God!
I got the water. I got the monster.
You just set the tone for the algorithm when they hear double fisting in the intro. So here we go. I don't know what audience we're going to pick up on this now.
And I'll sanitize myself with some Dawn dish.
Oh boy. Oh man, I saw a package of Oreos the other day, and they got all these new flavors, and they had the Tide Pod Oreo. They're like, "Look, guys, don't eat this. don't eat this." But real quick, hey Chris, what's going on? What's up? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us here today. Do me a favor.
I'm happy to be here hanging out with you, my man.
For sure, man. It's almost like you're here, because I remember when you came by to visit us, but it's almost like you're here, because we're just chilling, having this conversation, super chill, so I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. The only thing I'm a little bit disappointed about is I'm not going to get an opportunity to have some of your delicious burgers that you are a master chef at. So,
Oh, man.
that's a little bit disappointing.
Hey, we can fix that. We can fix that. Next time, actually, we'll do it at your place. We're coming to your place.
I love it. Systemic failure.
Did your gimbal just die?
Oh yeah, this is the secret to success in real estate through YouTube, is to having all your equipment. Oh, here we go. Now we're really going nuts. Come on, man! You're going on a wild ride.
What's only worse is I tried to do a live stream the other day, and my mic was on like 10%, and my laptop was on like 8. I was like, all right, we're going to get through this real fast.
Well, if you want to ride the real estate roller coaster, congratulations, you just went on with me. But I don't know, is this still recording? Jesus! All right, let's try.
At least this wasn't on a live stream. At least it wasn't like you're brought on to a live stream with like Valuetainment, and it's just like the biggest live stream ever, and then your gimbal is like doing 360s.
I can promise you I would have much better equipment and staff for that. Okay, I think we're good. So what I think happened, although I don't know for certain because the gimbal is fully charged, I think it was the weight distribution was awkward in the way I had it set up on the phone, and so I think that might have screwed it up. Who knows?
I don't know, whatever you did though, like your video's clearer now, less lag, so perfect.
I got the magic touch. This is all part of this. If you want to know how to optimize, I can tell you or I can show you. So we just went through a live demonstration of how it is.
So basically, to get to the highest level, you're going to have to go through a rough patch. Got it.
You're going to have to fail and fail and fail and fail and fail and fail and fail until you succeed. And you got to keep on trying. So...